Hello,
Hello,
hello.
friends. We just finished Dueling Shoulder Angels by Ben Schenkman. Actually, got all these books directly from him because I finished the first one on Father's Day. I was like, I'm gonna pick a random indie book and just check it out. And his was one of the ones that was sent in, and I decided, eeny, meeny, miny, that one. Dang, if I was not impressed by book one. I think I gave it a 10 out of 10. I don't remember off the top of my
I think
head,
we
but
both did. Book
it
one.
meant, yeah, book one was a banger. I really liked book one. How do we feel about book two? Let's get into it.
Let's
But
do it.
first, I want to severely judge this book by its cover. I love the art style for this series. I think this is perfect. I like this a lot.
I should build book one.
Yeah, Dakota will pull up book one. Because mine is in the other room. I do have book three here if you want to compare, just for funsies. See, same art style. But wait, that's a future video. But yeah, this I think this is really cool. We got Lou and Leslie here. And I just think it's great. I think it's great. I have no notes. And I love how bright it is too. He also signed the books for me, which I really appreciate. Yeah, look at book one. Right to book two. The vibes are there. I like it a lot.
The vibes are there. The vibes be vibing.
Vibes be vibing. Yeah. So anyway, nitty gritty, let's get down to it. Wasting no time diving right in. I will ask you, Dakota, the fateful question, our favorite question, one of well-developed characters. How do you feel about book two?
Frosted Flakes. They're more than good.
They're great.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I think he does. I think he develops his main cast really well. I like where Nick, Rob, and Amy went. They all started and ended in different places. We saw them go through growth. We saw them change. We saw the, I mean, pretty cut and dry in the perfect way for main cast development. I had some beef with how the side characters were handled a little bit, but for the main characters, well developed.
Yeah,
They
I
were
thought
good.
it was. I also gave it a full point. I liked our main cast. I was really iffy on bringing Rob back the way that we did.
Yeah,
At
it was
first,
interesting.
but I felt like it was well done. So I was like, you know what, you got me. Because he comes in as I mean, this is a spoiler show. So he comes in as an assistant for Nick, which I think is like his whole point is redemption, and he's working for God. So it's like, well, okay. Feels again very on the nose, which we'll talk about. But I felt like it did his character justice, and I will, I guess, accept that. I will accept that. Full point.
You're making a face right now.
I did make a face. It's because I did have just chatting about the character. I'm like, fine, whatever. Doable. I was a little upset with one of the side characters who I felt like should not have been a side character, and that was God.
Same.
I felt like Leslie's character was not fleshed out enough, and kind of felt like we were more just playing around with that character instead of actually writing very in depth. I felt like there needed to be more explored with that character, just that specific character. I don't think we should dock a point to that one character, but
I agree.
I just felt like we didn't knock it enough. For book one was so Lou heavy, Lucifer, and he was cool and had these powers and was a big part of the story. And then I feel like for this one to be called Dueling Shoulder Angels, we didn't really get any screen time with him, and they made him an idiot.
Yeah,
Literally.
It was interesting because I gave this one a full point because I thought that the main characters were really well developed, and I really like to see the character arcs continue for our main characters. And so like I recognize, like, I think that's your nitty gritty, right? But I agree. I really didn't love what he did with God in this. And I'm not really sure why the choice was made to do it that way, because I just feel like you said, with it being a continuation of book one was so Lou heavy that, like, I think even if he wanted, like, the whole purpose of Leslie's character is like the hands off, like overly accepting, it'll all work out. Like, people are naturally wanting to be good, and so I'll just let them be good and they'll end up with me and not with Lou. And I think that could have been explored more than just making like God's character kind of an idiot.
Yeah.
I think that it could have. I don't know. I just think there's a way to further drill down into that whole like hands off perspective and really make something of the character than just it being like the character's dumb. Moving on.
I feel like, and I feel like we might get into this later, this book has like a lot of hyperbole. I feel like we have a lot of over exaggeration and a lot of, I'm going to drive this point home. So I'm going to make it very clear by making it over exaggerated by what I say and do, which can be fine. And there are some good things about that. And there's some bad things about that. But we'll see. So I think this point it just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
That character specifically. Loved all the other characters. I just felt like for this being, I mean, it's God. It should be a big character, even if they are a side character. And I felt like it's just kind of like, meh,
Yeah.
God's a weirdo. Oh well.
LOL.
Oh
Weird.
lol.
A little weird. Yeah. So then from there we can jump into originality and creativity. How did you feel about this one?
I gave this 1.5 point. And this is, I think, was where I was most, and I hate to say disappointed because I love the world and I love the story. I just feel like he gets points in this one for originality or creativity, I should say, with the world that he built and the characters that he built and how they interact. But originality for this book specifically was book one. It was basically the same thing. There's a kidnapping story, except this time Amy gets to be the hero, which it was cool to see some different perspectives and see like her growth as a witch and everything like that. But the kidnapping Nick to get him off screen to give Amy more screen time just kind of felt like, I don't know, it kind of felt like a cop out, kind of felt like the same thing. Um, did I enjoy it? Yes, but it just felt like, sometimes they come out with books like different POVs, but it's the same book. Kind of felt like that. It wasn't because we got some new stuff. I just felt like the new stuff we got wasn't enough to be original from book one. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to disagree with you here, but I think I do
You
agree.
can.
I can. I have the power. Now, I think that the more I think about it, like we saw, um, let's see if I can communicate this well. We saw the same problems, I think, in that we saw in book one. Like Nick's chasing a deal that he's trying to set up, which was what was happening in the first book as well. He was chasing a deal that he was trying to set up, and then he was kidnapped. And so that was like almost a mirror situation. And nice use of your headphone stand. It was like a mirror situation,
The
right?
book kept falling.
Yeah. I always think it's really funny when your book falls on camera because you make really funny faces.
It does like every video, and I've just finally decided to do something about it, and that's shove something else there.
There you go. Anyways, I agree with you. I think the more and more I think about it, we saw the same core elements, right? Like Nick's dealing with a supernatural being that is impressed with him and wants him. Nick's dealing with a contract that he's trying to put together for a being and trying to figure out the best way to make it happen and if they deserve it or not. Nick gets kidnapped. And those like are interchangeable, I think, between the first and second book.
Yeah. And so that kind of leads into engaging storyline for me because I gave this a half point there. And I think it was because we had some we had some good segue where I was like, okay, like, oh, they finally noticed Nick. They're paying a little bit more attention. They want to poach Nick. I thought that was a cool segue. We could do some fun stuff with that. I was thinking we could get some like light side versus dark side trying to like schmooze him or like blackmail him or like some sort of way to like coerce him into picking a side. And then we kind of just got like, God's like, whatever. Like, if you do it, great. If not, whatever. And Lou's like, hey, we'll give you this, but like, stay around for a bit. And I just felt like we didn't get, like, we got a whole book on the devil side. And we got a lot of introduction to the story in the world. So we didn't need a whole book for the angel side. But I felt like for the whole book, we maybe got like, what'd you say, like 8 to 15% max on like things involving the angels. I just felt like it wasn't enough for me.
Yeah.
And I hate to put like, oh, I was expecting more because my personal expectations shouldn't affect the book. And I feel like expectation side, that's what I wanted. I wanted more. I did like the story, and I want to keep continuing in this world. But it was a little bit disappointing because it was the same as book one. I didn't feel as engaged, I guess, in this one.
Yeah, it's tough because I think I I agree, and I think this book is definitely suffering from the first book's success in my mind because like the the first book had so much charm and like totally blew things out of the water that I was like, oh my gosh, book one's a 10 out of 10. And book two, I was ready for it. And like you said, it's my own expectations. I was ready for it to blow things out of the water. And
Yeah.
so it struggled in some areas that made it tough for me to give it a higher score. But I agree. I gave it a half point in engaging storyline because I felt like we didn't have a lot going on. It was Nick was kind of toiling on, like we didn't, not much was happening throughout the book that really progressed the plot, and then it all happened all at once.
Yeah. I had just heard this recently. Somebody used the term, whether I'm using it appropriately or not, was the second book syndrome. And it's where like a book rides really hard off its success from the first book, and so it doesn't do enough in the second. So it kind of falters a little bit. And this happens with like it's a very popular thing that happens to a lot of series. Um, I think what the problem with me with this one was it built off. It was like right after the first one, right? 2 years after, and it kind of built off the story. But we didn't do anything for a long time. Not a lot happened, and then 50% in, and we're doing the kidnapping thing. So it felt like finally, when things are starting to happen, we're recycling the same plot line.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it kind of lost it for
Yes.
me.
So we both gave it a half point here, and it looks like I think we might disagree in the next area, but that is leads into me giving it a half point as well on the story end and wrap up because of how it like drug on a bit and the conclusions didn't feel earned to me. It felt like Nick was rescued and then all the problems were immediately solved like right away in like just a minute of like contemplation on Nick's part. So I gave it a half point for the ending as well because I didn't feel like I saw the ending be like earned. Like the conclusion, the wrap up, the solution, I didn't think those were like earned solutions. I felt like they were I don't know that I necessarily want to say plot convenience because I think like they're simple in that the conclusion could have been more to show Nick's growth in that like he has all these problems and he grows to the point that he can like solve them because he's decisive. But to me, the immediate like solutions for them after he was done being kidnapped made me give the ending a half point too.
See, this is where I would disagree because I give it a full point in the end. Because although we did have an issue with the first 50% and then the storyline kind of being recycled with the whole kidnapping, I think the point of the kidnapping, at least my opinion of why the author did that, one, he likes to write kidnappings apparently. But two, he used that to get Nick out of the picture, right? So this book wasn't about Nick's.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The first 50% was about like Nick's progression since then and how he's like into his job and his relationship and him forgiving Rob here and at the end, giving him a second chance. But now this book is about Rob and Amy, which feels a little clunky, but I feel like it did it well because we got to see Amy kind of come into her like tarot card power and Rob with his redemption and willing to be fired for Nick, and he got his redemption arc in this book. So they save Nick, and then at the end, Nick solves what he does. He solves the ending because Rob gave him information that ultimately got him fired. So like Rob fell on his sword, so that way Nick could not, I guess, technically be murdered or whatever was going to happen to him, or what have you. I don't know. So I felt like for what the story was, even though we didn't enjoy it, I felt like it wrapped up what it was trying to do. So that's why I got the full point. I didn't feel like there was any cliffhangers that needed to be solved this book.
I feel like it's a two-parter for me. The like ending and wrap up. Like a half point for did the loose ends get wrapped up, and a half point for was the ending deserved, and did the ending bring me like fulfillment and closure? And so like I definitely saw all the problems get solved, and it was set up for book three nicely. It wasn't like unnecessary loose ends, but I think that the way that we got to the ending, like the way that he solved the problem with Marcia was a little frustrating to me. Is it Marcia, right?
Marcia, I think. Marcia.
The way that he solved her problem was a little frustrating. I think that like this one is tough because I think the way that I would have enjoyed seeing it solved more is more of a repeat of book one, where he like whips up some sort of killer contract, or that he just does something. He utilizes his connections and his power with Devil Co to make something happen in a solution. And instead of creating a solution, he really just kind of blows it off and is like, "We'll be fine. Leave me alone. I'll leave you alone." And I don't think that's a solution, or at least not an earned solution. I think that's like a solution of convenience.
I do think it is a little bit weak in that aspect, but I also think the point was to highlight that he reached out for help and Rob came through as opposed to the actual like conclusion of it. So it feels like you're sacrificing a little bit in the story end for character development, but
Yeah,
I felt it was satisfying for me. I felt like it wrapped it up fine, and I didn't think there's any problems with it, but I do see what you're saying. I see
I
your issues.
I agree with what you said. I felt like it sacrificed some of the story end for character development, which is why I gave it a full point in character development and a half point in story end.
You know what? You know how like different
The
podcasts and
words
stuff, they have
coming out
like
of your mouth are
things
the right words.
they like argue and stuff for like content and blah blah blah. We'll never have that. We just don't argue. We're like, you know what? You do make good points. Everything you say is valid. We should just be like, you know what? Nico, fuck you.
You're
Stupid
dumb.
ass
You're
opinions.
stupid. I mean, you are wrong. I mean, you're right. You're right in that you said that the story end was sacrificed a little bit for the character development, which is correct. You're right, which means you're wrong in giving it a full point, because
I
if
can
you
see
just
how you could think that it was sacrificed at the end. I don't agree that like I'm empathetic with your opinion. I just don't agree with it.
chat clip that, bring back the recording of Curtis saying exactly what I said. No, yeah, we can
Chat kill
disagree.
Dakota
It's fun.
on stream.
Go to his house right now. Yeah, we
You know what? I'm done with you.
This is the end of RSQ.
Just
Cut
like
it
that.
off.
Remember when I said we didn't argue? This is over.
It's all done.
World building and setting. What are you giving it here?
I give it a full point. It's fun. The world's fun. The world's unique. The way that he handles supernatural powers is super cool. The like supernatural beings it was fun. And Amy's whole like, when Amy goes to talk to Lou for his help, and Lou's like, "Your path is not through me. We are not compatible." And it's
Listen,
like, "Why?"
bro.
And he's like, "'Cause you a witch." And she's like,
Yeah, we get to see some different like witchy stuff, but there's also like it alludes to the fact that like there is God and the devil, but there's also actually so much more, and you're gonna want to read more. And I'm like,
"Yes,
you're right.
You're right."
I do really like the world though, and I think the whole this is, and I'm gonna say it again, a not so cozy fantasy. This book especially makes it like very much try and feel wholesome. Like everybody has feelings and that's okay type fantasy.
Yeah.
But you get to see some like different aspect on it, because normally like everyone's like, God is good and evil is bad. But in this one, it's like God's an idiot and the devil's
And
just hanging
evil's
out,
right.
just trying to do good stuff, but
He's
also
pretty
take your
chill.
soul. So yeah, I think I like the world building, and I would read more in this. I am going to read more in this. This is the third book, and I will be reading it.
Yep. Same.
Same, don't your game.
Same. All right, time for us to fight again. Cage
no.
match. Sip your drink before I insult you. Pacing and structure.
Are you gonna say your hurtful things first, or should I go
You're
first?
gonna say the good first. We're gonna do some good cop, bad cop, and they'll tell
Am
you why
I
you're
Leslie?
wrong.
And you're Lou? As in you're a fucking loser, you fucking nerd.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, you walked into that one.
This is late night. This is late night RSQ right now.
Yeah. Do you see the sun? Because I don't. It is 12:30 a.m. As in
It's
nighttime.
literally 9:30 p.m. I don't know what the problem is.
Dakota's 1 p.m. right now. He's getting sun. Pacing and
tanning.
structure, I gave it a 1 because although the first 50% of the book was quote unquote, not quote unquote, what do I say? It was, I can see how you're gonna say it might be slow, but like we got information that like I enjoyed reading, so it didn't feel slow because it's a small book. So like for the beginning of it to be a little slow and then pick up immediately, I was like, it was a different style of pacing, but I didn't dislike it, even though I wish the back half of the story was not repetitive. If it would have been a different storyline, I would have been like, okay, we're building up. We know where the characters are. They're setting them up for, oh, Rob might work for you. Okay, there might be a redemption arc here, and then boom, now's the time to prove your redemption. I was okay with that. I liked that. And that leads to the structure being unique as well because it felt different and it was a short enough book to where I feel like it worked. If it was a long book and the first 50% was the way this one was, I would have been upset. But I was happy with the way this was paced, personally.
That's a really strong argument.
I felt good about that. A lot of times I lose my words in the middle of it because my brain's like, and I
You
can't
get
get it out
lost in the
fast enough,
sauce.
and then it turns off. Yeah, it'd be an ADHD thing.
Yeah, that was a good point. You bring up good points. I gave it a half point in pacing and structure. I thought the structure was unique. I really like the structure. I love a last minute point of view change that you don't expect, and then you're like, "This is a new character. That's cool. Who dis? What's going on? We've never heard this person talk to us from this perspective." Enjoyed that. The pacing, I
Keep going.
trying to see if I can. Anyways, it's not going well. Okay, so here's what I notated. I felt that from like 30% to 60% of the book, it was aimless, which is why I'm giving it a half a point in structure. I felt that in the beginning, we got a really nice slice of life. We got to see where our characters are at since the first book. We got to catch up with Nick a bit at Devil Co. We got to see Amy, in Nick and Amy's relationship, and we get this really nice slice of life. And then I felt like we had this big chunk in the middle where Nick was just kind of toiling over his unsolvable problems and not really developing either way until he gets kidnapped and we switch to Amy. And Amy has to like step in and save him. So the slice of life in the beginning, the middle of him is him just toiling over his problems and not really making any progress either way. And then it switches to Amy, and Amy does all this growth and work to save him. And then as soon as we switch back to Nick, who's free, solves problems immediately. So like,
Yeah,
it was a bit disconcerting for me in the way that it was. I don't know. Maybe I'm actually, I might be talking myself more into disagreeing with
Hear
the
me out.
structure
Hear me
than
out.
than the pacing.
Let's see if this helps a little bit. So, with what you're saying from the 30 to 60%, where he kind of like wanders aimlessly and there's not much there, that's why I kind of gave it a half point in the engaging storyline, because I feel like we lost the plot a little bit. I feel like he was kind of writing about the world and it was cool. Did it 100% matter what we're reading? But like, I don't feel the pacing for the book suffered because of that. I just felt like the content itself was a little lackluster, but I felt like the pacing of it was fine.
I
But
agree
that
with you,
is,
and I will change my point to a 1, and I'll conditionally agree that you're right in what you said, that it only works because it's short. I will say that
yeah,
I think that it does suffer from like losing the storyline, losing the plot in the middle, and I will put that complaint into engaging storyline where I already docked it a half point. And it was an interesting world, and it's a short book. So even though it did meander, it's like real time, like 45 minutes to an hour of meandering. It like I'm not even, probably not even that long. Like I get through that little middle section and then I move on because it's a short book.
well, it's a short book and you kept reading it through that. And like, it was like, you weren't like stuttering through. You're like, all right, like, what are we doing here type thing. You were reading it and then you're like, oh, I'm 30 more percent in. It's like,
Yeah, that's true. So I will shift that complaint to being a storyline complaint and conditionally will say that the pacing did work because it's a shorter book.
yeah, which is strange because I feel like we haven't necessarily made that argument before. But as I said it out loud, I'm like, this makes a lot more sense because the length of your book obviously clearly matters
Yeah,
when
you can't
in how you space your book out. Because if you're beep bopping around for 400 pages, I'm gonna be bored as shit.
That's crazy that we both decided 400 was the number there.
Right? Well, did you know? Anytime you like, have you ever played that? Like, oh, like 1 to 10, what are the odds? A lot of people say 4 or 7. Always.
Interesting.
There's some sort of magic there. Witchery.
Witchery. Amy.
Witchery.
From there on to meaningful. Nope. On to
No.
writing style and prose.
Also no. Emotional impact, my friend. Not that it matters, because we could just go out of order, but I'll forget and not go back. So I have to say that
It does matter. All right. Emotional impact. Where we at? You started before, so I guess I can start here.
Okay. Hone in. Lock in.
See
What is
this
that?
number?
Those goggles? Oh, 0?
Yeah, I gave it a 0 on emotional impact.
Okay, hold up. First off, I'm watching my wife lay my child down in the crib in the monitor, but all I saw was her laying her down and she was a little bit upside down. I thought she was possessed for a second. I looked over, I'm like, what the fuck am I looking at? And then I saw her arms for a second. I'm like, okay, I'm not going crazy. That scared the shit out of me.
Which is really funny for the books that we're currently talking about.
Right? That was creepy. Anyway, sorry to break your train of thought, but that was spooky. I apologize.
Anyways, I gave it a 0 in emotional impact. I gave it a 0 in emotional impact, and rating this book was hard because I liked the world and I liked book 1, and I was interested enough to read. You keep scaring your dog, and you keep distracting me, and my train of thought is barely hanging on for dear life.
But my wife is going to bed, so she wanted to go out there, but I closed the door because we're talking and I don't want to wake her up. And so Riley's like, let me go see what's going on out there.
What's mom doing?
This mom, what the dog do?
All right. Emotional impact. Okay. I started this whole train of thought and then you crashed it. Rating this book was hard because I enjoyed the book and I like the world. And I wanted to rate it higher. So I had an internal dilemma whenever I rated something that, from my perspective, was poorly, whenever I gave it like a poor rating, because I was like, does it deserve the poor rating or am I being picky? But I feel like the emotional situations were really dry. We had situations where we could have sat in emotion more, and we kind of ignored the character's emotions. Nick's being tortured, and we don't see like any emotion from him. And Amy's like, Nick's been kidnapped, and she's like, I'm pretty sleepy though, so I think I'm gonna take a nap really quick.
Did you steal my note? Bitch.
I didn't steal. I'm pretty sure that's in my note block
It's such
too.
a good point, though. It's such a good point. You can steal it.
It's like all three characters. We have a moment in the story where they're. I feel like we should have seen emotion from them, or we should have had emotion described from them, and instead they're kind of emotionless. So, like Amy, when Nick's kidnapped, Nick while he's being tortured and is like held captive, and then I don't know if there's an emotional moment from Rob. There were emotionless moments from Rob. Maybe Rob could have been more emotional about like blowing his second chance with Angel Co. for
So
Nick.
if I can piggyback off what you're saying, I feel like, and I want to say this right because I don't want to sound not supportive of feelings. I feel like we focused very heavily in this book on um like personal feelings such as like anxiety and like relationship building and societal feelings and things like that, but we really lacked on actual just base natural feelings such as I am angry, I am sad, I am happy, I am mad. We got
Yeah,
like, I want to sit down and talk about like I'm a little anxious, babe. Okay, well let's cuddle and talk about your feeling. And then that's like
yeah,
our resolution. Like it felt like we're coming at this from a therapist standpoint as opposed to like letting the characters actually feel. We like stopped them from feeling and we're like, well, let's talk about it. And so we didn't get the feelings part, we got the talking about why we might feel this part. And I feel like that stunted me as a reader from actually feeling and caring about that. Because I was like, well, if the character's getting over it immediately, why should I? Like, oh, Rob kidnapped and tried to kill Meaty immediately, but he wants redemption. Well, I guess we'll give it a shot. And Amy's like, oh my God, Nick is kidnapped. I popped 4 melatonin and went to bed. It's like, what do you mean? She's like, well, I can't do anything now, so I might as well go to sleep. I got a full 8 hours and woke up with some tea and petted my cat and went and grocery shopped. What are you doing? Like, it just didn't make sense. The feelings didn't match what was happening. Like there was
yeah.
a very bad correlation in that aspect. Which, and another point we're saying before you swing, because I know you want to talk. I just lost my thought. Hold on. Oh, you did it to me and I did it to you.
I said nothing. I didn't do anything to you.
It didn't matter. Talk for a second, then I'll interrupt you.
You interrupted me, and
I'll
then
interrupt
forgot
you
your.
again, I promise.
I was just gonna say that whole everything you just said was great, and I would. It's this interesting internal versus external emotional perspective in that we're getting this like external emotional perspective where they're describing how like we're really zoomed in on the characters telling other characters how they feel, which is great. It's really interesting to see them communicate that way, but we do lack that like internal perspective. Like as a reader, we should be getting a view into the character's emotions, or because that's we get that in every book, right? Like the way that emotions are described to a reader, we're seeing them experience emotions in some way, and I just feel like we got a lot of them describing emotions to other people, but not a lot of them experiencing emotions.
I would agree. The thing I was gonna say is I, based off of what you said, having coming off of book one, a 10 out of 10 banger, I wanted to rate this book higher because of what we read in book one. I'm like, I know that this author can write like some good stuff,
Yeah.
but when I finish this book, and I hate to say this because I know he's gonna watch it, right?
I'm
Because
sorry,
this is like
Ben.
an indie author thing. I'm sorry, Ben. I know like he writes really well, and I like his stories. And not that this book wasn't written well; it was technically written well. I had no issues with that, but the story was a little bit less of what I was hoping for coming off of book one. Like I was before book one here, right? Finished book one up here at 10. And so I was expecting like not starting at 0 anymore. I was like, all right, we should at least start at a 5. And then, the ceiling, it just, I don't know. I felt like we kind of missed the.
Yeah, you're really touching on a lot of a lot of what I was saying too. That like I had a really hard time rating this book poorly because I loved book one so much, and it charmed me so much and really drew me in, and it was so fun, and I really loved like he really made us this world to love,
Yeah, I
and
love the characters.
still love the world, still love the characters. I just don't think that the plot and storyline delivered for me in this one.
And that's another thing too to like, I guess, consider when we rate things and like you people as readers. Um, like how expectations can affect your experience reading a book, right? Because going into a book thinking it's going to be like utter shit, like everyone craps on it on like, TikTok or whatever. You're like, you know what? I'm going to read it because everybody's reading it. And I heard it sucks. You're like, it's not that bad. I.e., Fourth Wing for Dakota kept hearing it was like mid bad. And he thought it was better than what was described.
Opposite,
Not
actually.
necessarily good.
I
What?
kept hearing it was a 10 out of 10 banger. And I didn't think it was bad. I just thought it was decent.
Well, I sound like an idiot because
But I
I'm
mean,
talking
it's
out of
the
my
same
ass.
thing you said. You
But
just said it
either same thing
backwards.
we were saying. Yeah. If like it's like I hate recommending a book and telling people like this is absolutely crushing my scale. I love this book. And then they read it and they're like it was good, but like it wasn't as good as you were saying. Because I'm hyping it up so much, you're expecting so much.
Yeah.
I feel like expectations are the killer of joy. And that is a saying that I have tattooed on my butt, which you'll never see.
I've seen it.
Dakota's seen it. 4 people have seen it in my entire life. Dakota's one of them. But yeah, I think that happened a
Yeah.
little bit with this book, but I
I
also
think
think our points are also valid
I
at the
think
same
it's
point.
because media is so it's really funny too because Ben has a TikTok about this about like people consuming your art and how it's subjective and like I think that in reading a book and rating it is so inherently subjective that like
It
even though
is.
we try to be really like scientific and really objective that even like a 10 out of 10 for us is not necessarily going to be a 10 out of 10 for somebody else. Like, so if we tell someone this is amazing, crush my skill so hard, they could not come to the point that we came to on pacing where we gave it a full point and they could be like, no, it was too slow in the middle for me. And they could be like, it's not a 10 out of 10. Why would you say it's 10 out of 10? The pacing in the middle was not good for me.
It's like when we did our Isles of Emberdark, there was someone so mad at us. I
Yeah.
think it was on TikTok
It was a
or
YouTube
Instagram. I don't
comment.
know. YouTube, yeah, it was a YouTube comment because I
One
never
of our
checked
like
them.
3 YouTube comments we've ever gotten, and bro is like,
Right, and he was like, "This is literally nowhere near 10. Like, you guys are actually insane." I'm like, "It okay. I apologize for rating it how I feel."
I'm sorry for doing this to you.
Sorry.
All right, so we gave it 0 in emotional impact, and we talked about it a lot. So moving on, jumping forward to the writing style and prose.
prose. Here we go. I struggled with this category a little bit.
I did too.
I felt good about the prose. I want to start there. I felt fine with the prose. I felt all the characters talked. I felt like they all fit in very well. Felt like there was no clunkiness in that aspect. I struggled on the point of writing style. I did give it the full point. The reason I almost didn't give it the full point was there's a lot of fourth wall breaking, um, which I don't mind, which is why I gave it the full point because the fourth wall breaks I felt like were a little lectury to me. And I am all about if you want to push a point in your book, but it's done through a narrative aspect, then okay, you wrote it into your story and you are saying, hey, this is what I think and I want you to think about. but I felt like this one was literally fourth wall breaks where we had like use the reader, cherish your woman and take her out to dinner, and if you don't, you're a bad person. And then it would like go back to the book, and I'm like,
It's
why?
like, what? What?
In my opinion, I'm like, show the character treating the person right, and then
Yeah,
I'll get the point. I don't need you to be like, hey, idiot, look at this thing I'm trying to tell you right now, type
yeah.
thing.
This
And
one's
not that it
really,
was that bad, and it wasn't anything like rude. It was just like, I mean, a lot of it was different, like things revolving like LGBTQ is like, hey, we support every, everybody and everybody, which I totally agree with. But fourth wall breaking, saying like, what was it was the first time they went into the gay bar with Lester. I don't
I'm
remember
not.
the exact phrase,
I
but it was
do.
something you do. Okay. What was
I'm
it?
not. He said, I'm straight, not narrow minded.
Oh yeah. And I was like, that necessarily wasn't the fourth wall break, but I remember reading that. I'm like, it was jarring because I'm like, okay, like I get what you're trying to say, but like you don't have to like bombard it in my face, because that was like not the first one and it wasn't the last in that same scene. And I was like, okay, like
Yeah,
I
we're
agree. Don't be
really.
a bigot. I would 100% agree. I don't need to be lectured. Like, but I still give it the full point because I mean, it was okay. It was just like I got over it. That was a personal subjective thing for me. I gave it the full point, but I see why you didn't give it the full point because of that. If that was why
Yeah,
you didn't,
yeah. That's why I gave it a half point, and like I said, I love the pros, and I'm gotta work really hard here to not double dip into my notes for themes because we're starting to also go towards some of what I said in themes. But
yeah,
yeah, the fourth wall breaks for this like stylistically as a writing style, and this might just be personal. I mean, like you gave it a full point. I'm giving it a half point. I'll definitely own the subjectiveness here and say that it's just for me. I didn't enjoy that kind of writing. I didn't enjoy the style where it was like it's like the reader is talking to or the character is talking to a person in the story, and it's literally like Jim in The Office. They suddenly look at you and they're like, and if you don't help your girlfriend with chores around the house, you're a bad person. So anyway, babe, let's get back to what we were saying. And it's just, I felt like there were too many of those for my taste, which was really interesting because I don't think we saw that at all in the first one.
don't remember feeling that way. You're
And I
making me
feel
kind of
like
change my opinion on that a little
womp
bit.
womp. But stylistically, I couldn't get past it. I felt like it was too on the nose, and that I agree with what you said, and I'm going to touch on this a lot more in themes. That like just show us that like books show us, especially books like this, like fantasy, sci-fi, like books show us in their act with the characters' actions what the author's trying to tell us. And so when it's like I'm stopping the story to tell you what you're supposed to do, I personally couldn't get past that.
And I don't think that in this case it was bad writing or anything like that. I just think it was a writing style choice.
Right.
Because I think Ben's a great writer, and I enjoy
Agree.
both of these books so far in terms of the way it's written. But I just don't think that writing style choice was for me because it
Same.
was very intentional. It didn't seem like like not accidental, but you can tell a bad writer when they're like, I don't know how to get this point across, so I'm just literally gonna slap you in the face with it. This wasn't like that. I felt like it
Yeah,
was intentional,
it was very intentional.
and
And so
it did not work for me.
it's a very subjective thing for me to also to give it my half point because I agree. It didn't work for me. I
It
didn't
swayed me.
it was jarring. It was like an immersion break when it was like
Yeah.
every time it happened I was like,
Because
there
we
it is
texted each
again.
other. Yeah, we're like,
Yeah.
did you get to this part? Yeah. Yeah, so I changed my point from 1 to a half.
We both
I
have swayed each other in this rating. You swayed me to give my pacing a full point, and I've swayed you to give writing style a half point.
what can I say?
Except
Except
you're
you're
welcome.
welcome. Are we in love?
Think so.
We might
We
be.
are.
All right, meaningful themes and depth. Um, I'm okay with starting. Did you start the last one, or did I start the last one?
You started the last one.
Okay, I will let you choose. Do you want to start this one, or do you want me to start this one?
I'm gonna start.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and start.
No, go ahead.
No, take it.
All right.
No, you. Take it.
No,
You
you.
take it.
I gave this one half point. I think where it excelled was moral dilemma. And I think that was an easy slam dunk because of our story and our subject plot. We had literally working for the devil or working for God. and we had character redemption arcs. We had with the kidnapping, Rob losing his job, or staying with his job and leaving Nick kidnapped, but he got fired and kept it long. We had Amy with not choosing either and just staying being a witch and not doing anything with Lou. I just feel like we had very clear and easy to see moral dilemmas. Where it lost the point for me was the themes were so on the nose. It was, again, when it comes to the writing style, when it's like the fourth wall breaking and telling you exactly what I mean, it's fine if a point is or a theme is very simple and very clear and expanded upon. I don't need it like, don't punch me in the face with your theme and then just like not expand upon that and just being like, here's my theme. You know what it is now. We're not going to touch on it ever
Do
again.
better.
Yeah, I don't know. This whole book, which I did enjoy reading, the whole time I did kind of feel like on the nose was the theme for the book. The whole book was kind of on the nose with very surface level things, and it kind of just stayed there. Like if
Yeah.
this was book one and book one was book two, it would have made more sense writing style wise, or more so just say quality wise. But I feel like quality wise, I feel like we took a little bit step back where we tried to do some different things in this one, and it just did not work for me.
Yeah,
It
that's a
just
good
didn't
point.
work for me.
Maybe he was exploring some different styles.
And it could have been because it felt different. The writing was the same, but the style was slightly different, and the way we told the story, I just did it didn't work for me. Yeah. Do you want to expand upon this before I just keep talking out of my ass?
Yeah, so I compared this to Brian Wilson's Forsaken Planet. I wrote in my note block that something that Brian did, he addressed themes of immigration and I said slavery in my notes, but I don't know that Brian actually addressed slavery. Did he?
I think it was
He
subtle because
he yeah. Yeah, he addressed themes of immigration and slavery, which are like hot button topics, but the way that Brian did it was so woven into his story that it didn't at all feel like it didn't feel in your face, it didn't feel like finger pointy, it didn't feel lectury because it was so woven into the story. Like we saw characters go through a situation where they are mistreated because they're just from a different place. They look the exact same, they have the same heritage, but they come from a different place. And so they're mistreated based on their heritage and not based on their actions. And so Brian explores this theme of immigration, not like immigration, but like of
racism,
treating
kind of.
people. Yeah, of racism. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. I said immigration, slavery when what I really meant was racism. He explored the theme of racism through his story, and he didn't have to say racism is bad. And so I feel like when the themes are so on the nose that they're like, this is the theme, that's where it lost the point for me as well. Because I would like to see, and maybe it's personal, maybe I mean it's subjective, right? Like I think that that's a sign of like, to me, giving this category a full point is your theme is well developed through your story, and when you have to break immersion to tell me the theme, it's not as effective to me. Like I could read I don't want to say a self-help book, but I could read a book that's directly telling me how it feels if I want to know how that person that
But
I'm
no,
losing it. I'm losing
no, no.
myself
I
in the
see what you're
sauce
saying
here.
because especially when this specific themes of this book are very centered around like mental health and character sexuality was a huge theme in this book, and maybe not a theme because I don't necessarily agree that character sexuality should be a theme of a book, but it's very prominent in the book, I should say.
It's very important to the author to like
Important to the author,
the way
and it
he
can be
writes about
important
it.
to the story. But I had a good point, and I
So
lost it
I'll
through what
start
you're saying.
talking and you can interrupt me
Okay,
if
okay,
you
okay.
think of it. So maybe this is I keep trying to say this because I know that books are so subjective. Maybe this is personal to me, but I feel like your writing and your theme and your messages are so much more effective when you can show the reader through your characters. When you can show them how they should act, how they should be, how they should treat people through your character's actions. And so when you write the story and your characters are doing things, sharing load in the relationship, always being honest in the relationships, treating people of different genders and sexuality with fairness and with moral objectivity, with treating them right. When you show me your characters doing that in a way that makes sense to the story, I think that's more impactful than when you have to like break your story or pause your story and say, treat people right. And at least for
I
me,
felt
for the kind of book we're reading, for the kind of book that this is, it's a
from
weird
yeah,
genre
because
bender
we
for
went
me.
from book 1 not having any of this to book 2, we all of a sudden became it did feel self-helpy, and I felt like we sacrificed plot as mostly in the first half. We sacrificed plot and different things we could have done with the characters for the sake of proving a point, I guess I will
Yeah.
say. I wanted to say almost like the author put his ideas into the story, but instead of into the story, they were kind of just blatantly there. And then the characters kind of worked around the author's ideas as opposed to there being a story with ideas and feelings the characters had. And then that was just part of the story. It felt separate. The plot and the point the author was trying to convey were separate.
Yeah.
They were both on the paper, but they didn't integrate very well.
And like we said, it's
It
a
just
style
felt
that
so
he very
different.
intention it's a
Yeah.
style he intentionally did. And so maybe it just didn't work for us and it might work for somebody else. And
Hmm.
like I said, I think a big part of it for me is that like what kind of story I'm coming to like and what I'm expecting. And so like how the first one was. And like I'm coming to read a urban fantasy, cozy light fantasy book about a guy who works for the devil and has internal moral dilemmas about that. And it ended up being really self-helpy. And I was like, that's interesting. It's different.
I think the
So
hard part for me too about this is I'm sure I could talk to a therapist about this. Anything to do like very self-helpy really turns me off to reading it. Like I don't want to hear about I don't want to break down how we're gonna solve like that mental issue that you like. The characters can go through that issue and do it themselves, but I don't want to be taught as the reader. I'm not here to be taught. I'm here to read a fantasy. I'm here to read your world that you're created. I don't need to be, shoved a lesson, which I don't feel it was shoved at me in a bad way in the sense that like you have to do this and blah 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 blah, but shoved in the sense that it was very blatant, which I don't like when I'm reading it.
yeah, and now that you said it, I can say it. I I agree, and none of his points were bad. None of his themes were inflammatory or aggressive. None of these things that we're talking about were inherently like rude or like I didn't disagree with any of them. It was like treat people well, be honest with your
Don't be a
partners.
fucking asshole,
Yeah,
essentially is it, which I get, but like
but I felt like the book was telling me that. And I'm like, bro, I'm not like,
it
whoa.
did seem accusatory. It was like, I'm not
And
a
so maybe
dick.
like we said, maybe it's personal, maybe it's my own immaturity, but I have a really hard time with that because it feels like I'm being lectured by the book, and it's like I want to read about your fantasy world. I don't want to be lectured
I want
about.
to hear more about you working with the devil and Leslie and your interactions with your witch girlfriend and your redemption killer. Yeah, I don't want to be I don't want to be taught. I'm here to read.
And 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 the cherry on top, I don't want to be taught. I'm here to read, but the best books teach me anyway.
Through I learn if I'm going to read a story and I learn something from the story, I'm going to remember that significantly longer than if you're just like, "Hey, don't be a fucking dick." Like,
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like the Coward and the Coward was not one of my favorite books. We didn't like combined. We didn't like the Warrior, but
I liked The Coward a lot.
I still had this whole long theme. Rant's probably the wrong word, but I still had this whole long theme talk about like innocence and how like we can't understand how something's gonna really affect us until we're in it. Anyways, I like learned something from it, and it taught me, and I came to understand the theme in the book, but it wasn't like do this, be this way.
This might be a little bit a slight tangent, but kind of on the same nose. I'm just not talking about this book specifically. I feel like when we come across something like this, it makes you think like, so a writer's talking to you about like the point they're trying to convey, but the way they convey it, I feel like makes you think what the writer thinks about the reader type thing. Like, do they think they aren't smart enough to understand, so they have to be forced to do it? Are they angry with a certain demographic that they're hoping reads the book that they can like talk to at it? And it's like one of those things that I guess like in healthcare and stuff, we're supposed to assume people read at like a really low level. So that way we break it down for them so that way they can digest it and we don't make anybody feel dumb. We just make sure everyone's at the same understanding type thing. But I feel like sometimes writers come across where they make the readers feel dumb with their points. And I didn't necessarily feel dumb from these points. That's not what I'm trying to say. But my tangent is I feel like that could come across that way if it's like very blatant at somebody, you know?
Yeah, I agree. We feel very strongly on this, as you might be able to tell from the last 15 minutes of our review.
Yeah, a little more than I thought I felt about it.
See,
But
I
but
knew
it's
I felt
funny
this way
because we
about it,
kept
but
we kept talking to each other about it. Yeah, but like it's one of those things to like I don't want to like bring somebody down for like putting out a point, but at the same time I need to be honest in how I felt about it, which was
yeah, all in all, at the end of it, it was a style. We recognized it was a stylistic choice and just didn't do it for us.
yeah, rereadability and a lasting impact. I gave it a half point. I think rereadability. I'm excited to be back into the world with the cliffhanger that it did leave us with. Um, and I'm excited to. I like for the most part the length of the book, the writing style. I like Lou and Leslie for their flaws that they have. I like Nick. I like Amy. I am indifferent about Rob, but I feel like I want more. Lasting impacts, though, for this book specifically, I had high lasting impacts on the first book. This book was a bit forgettable for me in terms of actual content. Message
Yeah, I
Miss
mean,
Dungley.
you hit it on the nose. I mean, I like the world and I want to keep being in the world. So yeah, I mean, half point for sure because I want more. I'm gonna read the next book. I want to stay in this world. I want to know more about Lou and I want to know about more about Leslie and how Nick's gonna handle Devils in the Details Inc. And I want to see where our character story is going. But yeah, this one as for lasting impact for this book individually. If this was the first book, it'd be really interesting to see if we continued the series if this was the first book because the first book
Yeah,
had
that's what
some
I was saying
special
before.
magic for us. So we're going to continue because we like the world so much. But if this was the first book, it'd be really interesting to see if we were going to, if we'd be like, man, do we want to continue? How are
I
we feeling?
probably would still continue, but I bet you if one was swapped with two, we would feel even better. I feel like about book one because you'd be like, "Wow, this is an improvement." I really enjoyed like where he went with it. I enjoyed the story, what was done, and but the way we have it, it just felt like even though I enjoyed it, I was disappointed, which is unfortunate because I was disappointed for how much I liked it, which doesn't make sense. I liked it, but I felt afterwards I was like, "Ugh, I don't know how to describe it other than that. It sounds dumb, but you get what I'm saying, or no,
I
or do I
do.
just
I
sound like
do.
an idiot?
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it a lot. Suffering from success in this one a lot. At book one just charmed us. We were both some books, it's really hard to put my finger on it. Some books have a really special charm and you
Hey,
read
book
them
one
and
had
they
it.
draw you in and it's like magic. It's why we read, right? The charm you get from a book that is just so fun, so special. Book one had that charm and I'm getting a little sentimental emotional talk about it because that charm's like why we read books, right? And so book one had that charm and book two didn't have the same charm, and so I was sad because I liked book one so much, and so it made me sad to rate book two the way that I did because I loved book one.
Yeah. So what do we get for our combined score? I think our combined score we gave it a RSQ of 6.25, which is lower than I wanted to give it. But it's where we're at. And we're going to review all of our books, honestly. And
Here we are.
although this was book one was 10, book two, 6.25, there is a third book, and we will be reading the third book, and we are going to read that next. Third book, Too Many Gods in the Kitchen.
The art style is so cool.
It looks like The Incredibles to me. Do you know what I'm
It
talking about?
yeah
Yeah,
yeah it does.
I think it's cool. Um, do we recommend book two, Dueling Shoulder Angels?
Yeah, it's conditionally, right? It's hard not to recommend it because we love book one so much. So if you like book one and you want to read Ben's books and read this whole series, it's hard to say no, skip book two. Like you're not going to say that.
Yeah, I I think I would recommend reading this to obviously continue with the story. Um, But if you're one of those people that like have a like you're a DNFer, you're like, I don't know if I'm gonna read. I'm gonna just like stop here type thing. I think you read book one and you stop and be happy with where you're at. At
Yeah.
this point in my reading with the first two books,
Yeah, we
that's
haven't
my
read the third
conditional
one
thing.
yet.
If you know you're gonna read them all, absolutely read book two. Because I did enjoy it. Even though we gave it a lower score, I did enjoy it. It just
Me
was
too.
like there were some personal problems I had with the book that made it a little bit disappointing for me. And that's where I'm at.
That's where I'm at. Yeah, no, I agree. If you're gonna be the kind of if you're not set on reading them all, then start with book one and let it be a perfect book one for you. But if you're set on reading them all, then yeah, for sure, read this, read
And
the
we might
third one.
change our opinion after we read book three. We might be, okay, book two was like not my favorite, but book three was a banger. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. We're reading it next. We'll let you know.
we'll keep you posted. We'll do this for you.
Just for you. This might have been our longest review ever.
This was our longest review of all time.
We had some feelings in this one. So congrats, Ben. This is our longest review ever. We enjoyed talking about your books.
We did. We talked about your book for a whole hour.
Our next book we're reading, like I said before, Too Many Gods in the Kitchen, book 3, and The Devil You Know. So that's exciting. I'm excited to dive into this one. Also a shorter book, which I feel like he writes well with his pacing. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to get into that one. And next, after that, we will spin the wheel. We don't know what we're reading next. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please go ahead and check out our shorts on YouTube and Instagram, or not YouTube, excuse me, TikTok and Instagram. Thanks for watching this whole YouTube video or for listening on Spotify. If you're listening on Spotify, we appreciate you. Thanks for being here. I love you, and we'll see you in the next video. RSQ out.
RSQ out.